Hey, it's Chloe, but you can call me Miss Chlo as the title of the show where we try to make learning and critical thinking contagious. This week, Attorney Leigh and I talk about quitting and I share my learnings when I quit my passion. So let's get on with the episode.
All right, welcome back, Attorney Leigh. Not yet
Nice.
officially, maybe in episode 3 or 4, you're gonna be published.
Maybe I don't know when you're going to air this.
I don't know either. But today we are going to talk about quitting because
Yay.
I feel like it's something that every person has to go through at least once or even multiple times, especially now that
Mhm.
we're all I mean, our batch, I guess, our circle of friends, we are all adulting,
We
and I think
are.
it's really something that should be more talked about more often because I feel like when
Mhm.
you say quitting, it's just in the realm of career decisions. Don't you think it's more so talked about when you're quitting a job, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but I feel like a lot of people has to grow to quitting not only in careers but also in a relationships, right? But
Oh.
and other stuff. So I wanted to talk
So we're
about it.
going there.
Yes, we are going there.
Okay.
Not necessarily relationships, but the other than the career type of quitting,
Yeah, okay.
because
Yeah.
that's the show. It's about learning and critical thinking. Right? So um yeah, like I mentioned, quitting is a recurring part of life. You have to go through it at least
Yeah,
once, but it's not necessarily
very normal.
logically. Sometimes it's done emotionally, right? And there's
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
kind of negative about it, like it's associated with something
Yeah,
very negative. Don't you
there's a
think?
stigma. There's a stigma around it, like it's a sign of weakness
Yes,
that
it's sign of
you
giving
don't
up.
know. Yeah, like you don't know how to hold on to something. Like
Yes.
because there are people who would quit because, when the going gets tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
sometimes like, it's not really bad to quit when it's bad.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something, but yeah, definitely, I agree. No, it's really something associated with weakness and possibly giving up or failure. And I think
Mhm.
the negative connotation, if it revolves around that, in some cases, it's something very permanent. So if you quit something, it's parang there's less chance that you're gonna go back again, like, right? There's something like that. So yeah, so as mentioned, um, quitting could be a hard decision, but I feel like there should be more options than just quitting and not quitting. I think there should be more options in between, like in the
Mhm.
spectrum of your
There's
decision.
yeah, like there's quitting, there's not quitting, and then there's just resting. There's
Yeah.
just taking a step
Mm-hmm.
back
Mm-hmm.
and seeing like where am I going with this
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because I think quitting is a part of your life and it should be a process. It's a decision making process. And your
Mhm.
ability to choose within those options, I think it is indicative of your ability to make decisions, make good decisions. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right? So that's a good point.
It is. It is.
So I want to delve deeper also in our experiences in quitting. And I guess firstly, why do you think quitting is so hard when you're quitting something that is a force of habit? Like you said before when we were not rolling, you quit sugar. Do you think
Mm.
it was easy for you to quit something that has been part of your life forever?
Mm. I think, to be honest, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
easier to quit because there were alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were readily alternatives that I could choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Because with sugar, it's really more just of the taste. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily just sugar. Like I just
Yeah.
need sugar. It's more of I just need something sweet, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily you get that solely from sugar.
Mm-hmm.
There are healthier alternatives. So I guess you could think about it that way, that it's only hard to quit something when there's no ready alternative for you to try. So like with something as simple as, quitting sugar, it would be hard if it's just I quit sugar and then there's nothing, and then I don't replace it with anything. So it
But
was
what?
easier when
Yeah,
there's an alternative. Yeah.
yeah. But why did you feel like you had to quit sugar in the first place? Is it like something really about your health,
Are we
or
really going to get into
why?
this?
It's like I said, it's a decision making process. So I wanted to
Okay.
pinpoint that.
There were many like, yeah, again, it's a decision making process, so there were many aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make a disclaimer that don't do what I did, because I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
professional or whatever. But it came about because of being quarantined for so long, and then you just feel like you're reaching for food that's just there,
Yeah.
like junk food. And like, just personally, I feel like I no longer feel healthy, I no longer feel good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one.
You're
um
also less active now because you couldn't go outside, right? Couldn't walk outside that
uh
much.
yeah, for I guess for some people, but um ironically for me, I became more active because of quarantine. Like, you discover home
Mm-hmm.
workouts and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, in terms of just moving around, just moving from one
Mm-hmm.
place to another, yeah, that's something I couldn't do, obviously,
Yeah.
because you're quarantined at home, you're
Yeah.
locked down. But yeah, so that was one of the reasons why, just because there's that need to be healthier and
Mm-hmm.
to boost your immune system because of coronavirus,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
COVID-19. So you just need to better yourself, at least.
Yeah. Now it's a
um
necessity to be healthy already, right? So it's not
mhm,
at the back of your mind that maybe I need to be
yeah,
healthy. But now that you have a lot of time to think about it, that's what you want to do.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's
um
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry. Yeah. So, but I
We're too
wanted to,
polite for our own
yeah,
good.
I know. So I wanted to ask also your
Mhm.
process of starting.
Yeah.
Did you ease your way into quitting it, sugar, or like,
Oh yeah, definitely. It wasn't like cold turkey, like,
yeah,
okay, starting today, no more sugar, whatever. It was a lot of researching. It
mm-hmm,
was a lot of researching of like benefits of quitting sugar, what kind of sugar you have to quit
uh-huh.
specifically.
What did
Yeah,
you
just
find
stuff
out?
like that. But for my case,
Mm-hmm,
because I've been struggling with bad skin.
mm-hmm,
And it turns out that consuming a lot of table sugar is really bad for me. So
mm,
because of that, so I avoid that kind of sugar,
mm-hmm.
and replaced it with stevia,
Yeah,
with coconut
honey.
sugar, honey, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maple syrup. But it's also lessened the intake of sweets.
Mm-hmm.
But again, yeah, it took a lot of researching, um,
Willpower.
and a lot of willpower, a lot of talking to my family that I can't eat this anymore. So
Please
don't
don't
offer
prepare
me
this.
so don't offer me this kind of food. Um yeah, and it was also like, okay, for this week it's just going to be no table sugar, and then it progressed to me checking the labels if it has that kind of sugar that I have
Yeah.
to avoid and stuff like that. And then eventually I just got used to it, and then everyone around me, like my family, they just know already that I
Mm-hmm.
don't consume sugar, so they still buy for themselves, of course.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot easier for me to avoid it. Like, I'm no longer tempted um to reach for something sweet or
Yeah.
something that has the kind of sugar that I should be avoiding. And also part of the decision to do this is because we have a history of diabetes in our family. So I
Oh,
feel
yeah. Your
that
dad,
I
right?
should just, yeah, my dad. I'm trying to just get ahead of it because we're not getting any younger.
Oh
So
no.
things are changing.
Yeah.
um so yeah, so you have to, adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and it makes it um easier, I guess, to quit something of if you have your support groups, right? Your family is supporting you to
Definitely.
do it.
Yeah.
But also, I think, like for example, people who are trying to quit smoking, they can't really do it cold turkey, like you said. They have to ease their way into it and really to have that
Yeah.
willpower. And I think you mentioned also they have to set a certain goal for themselves to aid their decision making part. What do I want to achieve, right? So
Yeah,
for your
exactly.
case, right, you want to be healthier, and of course that with the knowledge that you have a history of diabetes, so you want to get ahead of it. So you set certain goals for yourself and you try to achieve it one step
Yeah.
at a time, not just okay, I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that's
you
harder,
should
right?
have you should have a purpose in anything that you do. You should have purpose in doing it,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, yeah, it'll be a lot easier to fall back into to that habit, or I almost said hobbit. My mind is in
Fall
Lord of the
back
Rings
into
right
you're
now.
gonna go smaller. You're gonna go back to be smaller
Yeah,
and
so it's
as a hobby. Sorry.
with your second breakfast and your 11 C's. No, yeah, like if you find your purpose, you at least you have something you have something to look back
Mm-hmm.
to tell yourself, oh right, this is why I'm doing this, it's because of this. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For my case also, because I try to be, I try to have an active lifestyle, even pre-COVID
Mm-hmm.
period, right? I did
Yeah,
Spartan
yeah.
races, I did a lot of obstacle courses, and I try to go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to really control myself now that I'm not as active as before, and not try to have or to develop new bad habits that I have already quit
Mm-hmm.
before. Like before, I already quit um, drinking Coke or any type of soft drinks. Right, I
Soda,
already quit.
yeah.
Right, sodas
Yeah.
and also milk tea. I really
Oh,
tried to quit that already.
yeah.
So I don't want to go back to the things that I've
Mm-hmm.
already quit, because I made a conscious decision to be healthy and to be more to watch what I eat. So yeah, like
Yeah.
I said, I set goals. I want to be more active. I want to be able to climb obstacles without getting cramps, because sweets are usually the cause of cramps, or usually also
Oh,
caffeine.
I
So
didn't
yeah,
know
I
that.
quit those stuff.
Oh, I can't quit caffeine. That's
I know you
I
can.
can't quit coffee. That's just that's just a part of life for
Yes, that's
me.
a part of life. Also the taste. You can't really.
But coffee is very healthy as long as there's no, like, you don't add too much sugar, you don't add too much
Mhm.
dairy. If it's just coffee in its purest form, it's
All
very
right,
healthy. It's an
defend it, defend it.
antioxidant.
Defend the coffee. Yeah. So anyway, so
Mm,
yeah, it makes it hard, like we mentioned. It makes it harder. It's a forced habit, but I think it's a lot harder when it's quitting your when you're quitting something that your life depended on it.
mm-hmm.
You get that?
Yeah.
So for my case,
Definitely. Like
I want
a lot is in stake.
yeah,
Is at
yes,
stake.
yeah. So for my case, you know this already. I quit my
Mm.
passion of filmmaking for
Yeah.
about 2 years now.
Oh
So
my gosh, are you gonna cry?
no, I'm not gonna cry. I'm
Okay.
actually okay with this. I wanted to share my experience because I've
Mm-hmm.
already shared it a lot before with my with yeah, in career talks, and I find that a lot of people has the same experience where they don't really talk about how they quit a certain job or quit an industry,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess uh the fear of what people would say, people that
Yeah.
look up to them in
Yeah.
that industry, right? So they don't necessarily talk about it just because
Especially
yeah.
if that person has spent a considerable amount of
Mm-hmm.
time of their lives devoted to that specific thing that
Yes.
they're going to quit, then yeah, it's a lot harder.
Right, especially if you're an influencer of some sort, at least in your networks, not necessarily in social networks, right? In your networks, you're known as someone who is passionate about, for my case, right, film. I'm an indie girl, right? I'm an artist. So
Yeah.
for me, that was such a hard decision to make, quitting my passion, because I knew I wanted to make films even as I stepped before college, right? We are both communication
Mm.
arts majors. And you
Yeah.
know this, you know how passionate I am with films. And I tried to really pursue it as much as I can. And I was lucky enough to be part of a group that has the same notion of revolutionizing cinema, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? We want to
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah.
a better industry where there is rules in terms of labor, really
Yeah.
revolutionize it in terms of storytelling, so I pursued that dream just because I felt like I needed to, because that's what I set out to be. And I dedicated my entire time, my all my resources to pursue that passion of mine, right? So that's my dream. I really wanted to make films. I want to be a filmmaker in the Philippines and make independent film farms, right? So like I mentioned, I sacrificed a lot, my family time, even my friends. I did get to see you guys for
Yeah.
about 4 years, just because
Mm.
my idea of sacrificing for my passion, for my dreams, I needed to sacrifice all my time and really devote it to this dream. So that's what I did. I was very misinformed that I needed to sacrifice everything I have just to really just to pursue this one dream. So honestly, that really took a toll on me. I wasn't healthy at the point that I I couldn't sleep. I suffered a lot of anxiety and stress from, for example, I would go home from a shoot, a 24-hour shoot, for example, and I I I could have been sound asleep just because of exhaustion and not being home for 24 hours. But I couldn't sleep because I know that when I wake up, a lot of my team would be calling me because of another shoot, of another problem in the shoot. I need to fix it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
have that a lot when I was in the industry and doing a lot of shoots for different people. And there's no rules in that industry. You can work with anyone you want, right? So you're not tied into an in the to a company. There's no structure like that. So you work with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, and I found out that that's not really what. I'm not built for that type. My personality is not built for that type of industry. So the for years pressure is really getting into me. But I couldn't quit really for 4 years because I know that in the back of my mind, what would people think of me? Like my closest
Mm-hmm.
friends, you guys, right? What would
Yeah.
they think of me when I quit my passion? I quit as an artist and take a job that would pay me monthly, but I'm not challenged enough as a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
filmmaker, as a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what made me I guess what the triggering moment that I chose to leave that passion was this one of my last projects with that group, right? We
Mm-hmm.
invited Director Reyes, who is our professor, the Director Reyes. He said in his talk that the film industry is unforgiving and it doesn't owe anybody anything, right? And for me, it was such, that one line, and I felt like
Yeah.
that's true. And then I realized that I wasn't built for that kind of industry. That you have to go through a lot of survival
Mm-hmm.
of the fittest. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I it took me a lot of courage to realize that I'm not that person. I'm not as tough as I think I am. So yeah, for that time that I was quitting, yes, I was so depressed that I was about to leave the industry, leave passion that I really set out to be. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's the better decision, because now it turned out that where I am now in the agency, in the 9 to 5 job, day job, I find that I'm more um I guess I'm fine that I'm more, well, now I'm more active, I'm healthier, I am more creative now. Like, look at what I'm doing now. So I realized that I don't have to be a filmmaker in the industry struggling as an artist to tell stories, to make films. So that's what I realized, the
Mm.
value of good decision making, that if you find yourself in the wrong path, it's always, or it's not too late to really turn around. So that's what I realized in that experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long one.
I don't know what else to say.
Right?
I
Right.
mean,
But
you said
you
it.
were there. But you were there when I was
Yeah.
struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
never told me that you just have to quit, right? So it's not really a thing that you would tell someone. It's not really normalized. Like, you tell someone to quit. But if you told me to quit, I wouldn't also, right? Because I have too much pride and too much pressure from my peers and from the people that
Mm-hmm.
I influence, right? So there, I think your dog is knocking.
Yeah, dog walks. I thought you couldn't hear it. So just, I'll be right back. Blooper reel.
Pause for a break. Literally, I'm pausing.
Anyway,
Anyway,
going
so
back,
so
going
yeah,
back. Okay.
that was my story of quitting, and hopefully someone out there realizes how important it is to not sacrifice the people you love, your family time, your friend time, and also don't
Mm,
sacrifice your health for anyone, for anything,
yeah,
right?
I think from because I can remember a lot of things that you told, like you ranted, you
Mhm.
vented out. Um, a lot of things, but I don't think we should get into it
No,
now,
no.
or ever, for legal reasons. No, but at least for the time that you were going through that, I can't remember if I was already in law school.
You
Was I?
were, yes.
Oh, I was. Oh, yeah. So we were both, going
Struggling.
through life changing moments in our
Yes.
lives. Um, no, but from what I remember during the times that we would meet up and then you would tell
Mhm.
me about this, what I told myself is that, okay, she's telling you this not because she's asking you to decide for her.
Yeah.
It's just really, she just wants someone to listen to her.
Mhm. Mhm.
You just wanted someone to listen to you. And for me, what I learned is that people are allowed to change their minds.
Exactly.
um because the person that they were before,
Mhm.
when they, at the time that they chose or they decided to be this person in the future, they could experience um life changing moments, and they could experience that, or they could learn that, oh, apparently I'm not cut out for this, and that's
Mhm.
okay. Like,
Yeah, that should be okay.
why would you force yourself into something that you're not meant to do?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like you said, it's not just because I'm no longer in this particular field, in this particular industry, that doesn't mean I don't get to tell my story anymore, or I
Mhm.
don't get to tell other people's story. And there are other ways to do that, which is what you're doing now.
Yes.
um but also, I feel like you also had to go through that,
Yes. I
because you had to
completely
learn
agree.
that. You had to learn that for yourself,
Yes, I had to
and
go through that anxiety, stress, and depression. But I feel like,
hopefully,
yeah, I completely agree. I
Yeah,
swear to
it's like
God.
not saying that people should go through, you should go through
Yeah.
depression and
Mhm.
anxiety, because we have to take care of our mental
Mhm.
health.
Yes.
It is a very real issue.
Mhm.
um but also, it's that cliche saying that everything happens for a reason, and
Mhm.
you had to go through that for a reason, because it apparently it was the way for you to realize that it wasn't where you were meant to be. And I
Mhm.
think you're fortunate because we're still young, you know because it's a lot harder. I think it's a lot. And I guess I can understand it, um to some extent, for some people,
Mhm.
to feel that they shouldn't quit because, yeah, again, they've devoted 10, 20 years of their lives only to find out at that moment that they're not meant to do that.
Mhm.
And it's a lot harder to quit then, at least for you, because society has this obsession with youth, that,
Yeah.
if you're still young, you still have a lot of time to do things. But
Mhm.
it shouldn't just be confined in young people,
Uh-huh.
to try out new things, to quit and then try again. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what age you're in. Like, if you're 50 and you've devoted the last 40 years to doing something, well, not well, yeah, say 40 years, um go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead and do what it is that you think you should be doing,
Yeah,
even if
like for
you've
you.
devoted
Yeah,
so much time with
agree.
that
Yeah.
already.
Like for example, you've been a housewife for 40 years and you want to do something completely different that would challenge you. Do it. I mean, society shouldn't be stopping you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great
Again, we
point.
should stop our obsession with youth. I i i i admit that, for me, I also had that thought, like, oh, I should be doing everything
Now.
as long as I'm in
Mm.
my 20s. Like, I feel like my life would end after 20, and
Mm-hmm.
I should stop thinking that. Yeah, because, um it feels like there will be lesser opportunities for you when you're in your 30s, when you're in your
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
40s, which I don't think should be the case. We should stop
Yes.
obsessing with youth, because it's, you, even in your 30s and your 40s, I've encountered people, and they're in their 30s and 40s, and they would say they're still learning. So
Uh-huh.
why do we have to confine ourselves to doing everything that we want to do in our 20s? We're just wasting our time, just trying to get everything done within that 10 years, and then we just end up not being happy, which shouldn't be the case, because you still
Yes.
have the rest of your life ahead of you.
That's high five. That's so nice.
Virtual high five.
High five. Okay. Okay. So, wait, what was I was gonna say something. Anyway, but also I want
Cut.
but also like you mentioned that we are so obsessed with the youth, but also this phenomenon, I guess, um, sometimes in millennials, they are being accused of quitting too easily, right? Because sometimes quitting is
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
easiest thing that you could
Like
do.
jumping
And
from one job to another.
exactly. But also,
I've heard that. I've heard that. Hello,
but
boomers.
right? So I've heard
Yeah,
that a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Like in job interviews, they would ask me
Mm-hmm.
about why did you stay in this particular job for just 8 months? And I would
Mm-hmm.
say because it was toxic, right? So, but I think it's a thing also in millennials also. But I wanted to ask in the previous episode you talked about your worst experience in
Yeah.
law school.
Yes.
It's very much ideal of you of taking it like like a girl, because you didn't quit at all. But sometimes,
Mm.
like I said, it was the easiest way of dealing with something so negative, something so devastating, is just to quit. But for
Mm-hmm.
you, why didn't you quit? Basically.
Oh, that's easy because I love what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew from the get-go,
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I even set myself up to, like, I was already expecting that I would fail a few of my classes,
Mm-hmm.
because it was such a normal thing in law school
Mm-hmm.
to fail some of your classes
Mm-hmm.
or not do well in some of your classes. But I guess the short answer would be because I managed my expectations, and I knew that those things would happen to me. But if I only if I just look at why I'm doing it, um and why I wanted to finish it, then it outweighs whatever reason I would have in quitting. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, there would be days when I would say I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
um like, why am I doing this to myself? I already had work before this, and
Mm-hmm.
I could have just continued
Continued and made
with that.
money.
Yeah, and then I would be okay, because I was also happy with being a radio
Yeah.
DJ. But
Mm-hmm.
I knew there was a part of me that would be very disappointed in myself if I didn't continue. Um, and also, uh, I guess it was mid law school where when I really got the hang of the whole thing. Like, I had my routine, I had my study habits, and then I could kind of see my what the future could be for me as a lawyer. um there was just this, it's gonna sound like super cheesy
You
and
love cheese.
romantic, and I don't, but uh it was like that very calming um presence,
Mm-hmm.
or just something that came over me, that it just felt right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I was meant to do, because for every time that I wanted to quit, I can remember um tenfold reasons why I should continue. So that's why I never quit, and that's why we're here now.
But I think for most people, I'm not sure if that's your case also. They always go back to their triggering moment, like why they started
Mm,
in the first place. So I think
yeah.
that helps them also in
Yeah.
going through those decisions, right? But also, how do you
Mm.
think, how do you then decide if this hardship or this stress, this current moment of stress, of anxiety that you are experiencing is just an obstacle,
It's
or
just passing.
yeah, or if it's already a signal for you to quit?
Uh, I wouldn't know the answer to that, to be honest, because it's like asking me what is the secret to life. I don't know the secret
I
to
thought
life.
you know.
I have
Oh no.
not yet uncovered the secret to life. So we're all just learning as we go, and then
Exactly.
I guess that's why it's important that um in yourself, if you know that regardless of the amount of time that you've spent doing this, if you feel that you're no longer going anywhere, this is
Mm-hmm.
no longer helping you, yourself, your mental health, and it's time to go, then it's time to go, regardless of and it's just, again, it's the secret to life, which I
Yeah.
don't know the answer to yet, or
I know
will
the
I ever.
answer to it.
Oh, what is
The
the
answer
answer?
is it depends. That's the
Oh,
answer
you
to
should
life.
try
It
law
depends.
school. That's
I
that
should,
would be the
right?
answer to
To everything, right?
it
But I wanted
depends.
to give this example because I was watching rewatching Space Force. So if you haven't watched that, you
Oh,
have to watch it.
yes,
So
yes,
it's
it's
a
on
comedy
Netflix.
TV show,
We're
yes.
not paid. We're
Yes,
not
but
paid by Space Force by Steve Carell or Greg Daniels, but we
we
are
genuinely love it.
encouraging everyone. Yes, and it's just 10
Because
episodes.
yes,
So
it's a comedy show in Netflix starring Steve Carell, Lisa Kudrow,
Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz, our
Yay!
favorite. Hi, Ben Schwartz.
Give me,
Please,
oh yes.
please notice. Anyway,
Please go on Chloe's
John
podcast and tell
Malkovich,
us about
dude.
improv. Yes, John Malkovich.
But
How could we
anyway,
forget?
so in the first episodes, like we see Steve Carell,
Mm.
what's his name? General
Nerd. Nerd.
Nerds,
Yeah.
Nerd,
Nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah. Weird.
He was tasked to lead the newest branch of U.S. government, which is Space Force, and
Space Force,
in
which
the
is a real thing, by the
yes,
way,
it's a real thing.
in the
Boots on the moon,
United States, not in the
yes,
Philippines.
boots on the moon, and this episode they are preparing to launch the newest U.S. satellite, which is
Yeah.
Epsilon 6, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they have in this first episode, it was the most stressful thing I think, and I completely relate to that. You know, when you encounter organizational mishaps internally, like you're being
Mm.
surrounded already by experts, but you still have that pressure, especially as a leader of that organization, while also being pressured by the Congress and also operating in billions of dollars by taxpayers, right? So it's really
Mm.
it's a high pressure job. It's a high level stress that
Would
you
you
are.
say that you're general nerd in that situation?
I would
Because
say
I
I
feel like
am. No, I'm not. I'm not.
I'm
I
Dr.
am.
Chan with the umbrella.
I would say more on the expert side, the scientist side, because I
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that you were F Tony.
oh no, far from employee.
Okay,
That's
that's
my
good.
job now, but
Yeah.
I'm more Mallory there.
Oh,
Right. So
I'll be Dr. Chan. I'll be your number two.
alright. 'Cause,
I feel like we've isolated a few people that are listening that haven't seen
I
Space
don't
Force yet, but
care.
go
You
ahead
have to
and
watch it.
go and watch it.
Watch it. So yeah. So basically,
That's the
right. So
promo of this
that's
episode.
the
It's just
promo.
watch
So
Space
you
Force.
would relate even if you don't care about Space Force, about the moon, about your solar system. So basically, you don't care about the world. You can still watch it and still relate. So,
Yeah, because it's
so
funny.
yes, it's funny. And one of the things that General Nerd do to release that tension for him not to, to basically not quit was to
Implode.
no, what he does, and I think this is a genius part for the writers, Greg Minas, you're a genius. He sings to
Yes,
release that
Kokomo.
tension.
It was
Aruba,
such
Jamaica.
yeah.
No copyrighted songs.
Oh yeah. Well, just 3 seconds. We're good. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that he would do to release that tension, release that obstacle for a moment so that he doesn't implode like you mentioned, right? So I think a lot of people has this coping mechanism, right? So that's his
Mm.
coping mechanism. He
Yeah.
sings, which is very brilliant. And the song choice, can you
Yes.
oh my god.
Watch it.
Kukumo.
Just watch it.
Nakakatawa. Diba? So yeah, like I mentioned, like for most people or extroverted people, they would go partying, they would go clubbing. That's their way of coping for such high pressure jobs, high level of stress in their workplace or in their homes, wherever it is. So I think that's something that people should have so that they don't quit easily. So they're not, they don't just jump the gun and quit and just decide of quitting, to have those types of coping mechanisms. So
Maybe that's the secret to life. Just sing
ah,
Kokomo.
say Kokomo by the Beach Boys. Yes, but for your case, what was your coping mechanisms when you were in law school? Because it's high
There
pressure
were
also, right?
yeah. Yeah. There were a
Yeah.
lot. One of which was crying. It's not a
Scheduled.
joke.
It's
It's
scheduled breakdowns, not
schedule
just crying.
breakdowns. Unfortunately, I had to schedule when I could cry. But it would normally I would what I would normally do is I just watch a movie that's
Mhm.
sad. And kind of like it's very cathartic that
Uh-huh.
because you cry because of the movie, and then other reasons of crying, which would be like having failed the midterms exam,
Okay.
which I did a lot.
Mhm.
um,
But I think
uh,
what's common for us or other people who has the same personality as us, we hyperfixate on things,
yes,
or in our
yes,
case, comedy shows. Am I
that's
right?
so true. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you segued into this because we have our current hyperfixation,
Yes,
which
and we are going through it the same
yeah.
time, and we have the
Mm-hmm.
same show. Wait, before
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
can you
Okay.
explain hyperfixation for those people who haven't?
Hyperfixation. I don't know the exact meaning of the word, but the way I would use it is
Mm-hmm.
that if you're just hyper focused on one thing and you kind of obsess over
Mm-hmm.
that, and then you learn almost everything about that thing, like say
Mm-hmm.
it's a show.
Mm-hmm.
The way I would hyperfixate on on a show is that, for example, for our case, it's middle ditch and short.
Ah, we are
So
such
after
nerds.
so after watching all the episodes about 10 times each,
20 times.
I'm sorry, not sorry. I would then watch interviews
Mm-hmm.
of Ben Schwartz and
Or
Middle
movies.
Ditch, or other movies where they're involved in, like for Ben Schwartz it would be Happy. I'm just,
Yeah.
promoting promoting them.
Publicizing.
Um
Like in my
I would
case,
watch.
I watched Zombieland 2 for
Yeah,
a
because
very
Middle Ditch is
short
there.
cameo of Thomas there. So I watched
and
that.
and this is why we're friends, because you like Thomas Middleditch and I like Ben Schwartz. So it's like we're good.
And we have watched every single interview there is in every late night show. So
Yeah,
that's how we
so
hyperfixate.
that's
Um,
hyperfixation,
yeah, that's
I guess.
hyperfixating. So that's our coping mechanism. That doesn't mean everyone has that same mechanism. So probably you don't necessarily realize that's what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
for me in college, right, whenever there's a finals, right, something stressful, I would watch How I Met Your Mother over and over again, and I think I've seen every episode at least 30 times already, and I
Nice.
never get tired of it. I swear, that's how I
Mhm.
hyper
Mhm.
fixate. And that, I mean, for my case, I think it brings me something stable. Like it doesn't
Mm.
change. The
Yeah.
the episode doesn't change. The characters are still there. I feel like,
Although, sorry,
yeah,
just had to cut you there
yeah.
because you're making a great point. But there's also something very um interesting about shows that we love and that
Hmm.
shows that we always go back to, like How I Met Your Mother,
Yeah.
Friends, Community,
Hmm.
um
More. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, The Office. Well, you don't watch The Good Place, but I watch The
Yeah.
Good Place because I love that show so much, and I am making a public announcement that you should watch The Good Place too. But anyway, just going back, especially for TV series or any show that you've seen, let's say 5 years ago, and then you watch it again, but you've experienced so many things in between that
Hmm.
the meaning of the show changes, or the
Hmm.
meaning of that particular
Yeah.
episode changes.
Yeah.
Like
It
I
depends on where
remember
you are in your life
in
journey
your life,
also,
yeah.
right?
And because you mentioned How I Met Your Mother, and you remember that episode where Marshall um finds out that he
He was
passed the
gonna be a lawyer.
bar,
Yeah. Yes.
because I remember during bar review, whenever I would also just need whenever I would need a break, I also just watched something that I've already seen, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the stress of not knowing what's going on, because I'm already
Yeah.
under so much stress.
Yeah. Maybe
Um
that's it.
yeah, so you just need to go back to something that's comforting, which is something that you already know.
Yeah.
Um and then in the middle of bar review, I came across that episode. because it was early on in the seasons of How I Met Your Mother, and I completely forgot that that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered when I saw that scene, I just broke down
Mm-hmm.
because like I want to be Marshall.
Yeah.
I want to go on my computer and see that I passed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and have my friends surrounding me when I do, and just, just being
And show
happy with
you
me.
videos of babies getting pooped on, right? That's part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. With Barney. Um so uh so I remember that was my reaction. I think I was very envious of a
Mhm.
fictional character because I
Yeah.
wanted to experience that already, because I was so stressed from reviewing
Mhm.
every day, with almost no breaks. Um, and then that's why when fortunately I passed, I went back to that episode, and then I was just happy crying with
Yes,
Marshall, and
I
it
was
just
so happy
changes.
that you took a Instagram stories
Yeah, I
that episode. I
did.
think I am so proud of this girl. Yeah, that's why we are friends, yo.
So again, just to go back, with the hyperfixation, and
Mhm.
it's when you go back to certain episodes, and sometimes you might not have gotten some of the jokes in the
Mhm.
show because you were too young for it,
Yeah, yeah,
or you haven't really experienced it
yeah.
yet. So yeah, that's nice.
Right. I mean, we forgot to mention Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm sorry, that's my
Oh yeah,
favorite. We didn't
Brooklyn
mention it.
Nine-Nine.
I'm so sorry. like they cared. They didn't mention it. Anyway, yeah. So, what are we talking? Why did we go to that? Oh yeah. So,
Hyperfixation.
hyperfixation. But also, other than hyperfixation, right? It's also good to have someone to talk to, right? Like we mentioned in the early part of the episode, is to
Yes.
have a support group, right? Your close networks where you feel that
Mm-hmm.
these people are so personal with you already, and you feel like what they think would really matter to you, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
with the keyword being close networks, because if you're the type of person that you feel that every connection you have in your social networks would you care about what they think with you talaga personally, I think you might want to take a step back, right? Because that could really hinder your decision making process, and quitting is something that is very sensitive, I guess. And yeah, I think the better way of
Yeah.
dealing with decision making is to have certain people that are already in your close networks, and you have that relationship level where you can talk about life, about your purpose, right? And you wouldn't suffer
Yeah.
that thinking that we mentioned earlier, like they put too much pressure on you, or they have this idea or image of you that you have to be this person already. So right, so I think yeah, having those support groups would really help you get to having those options, not just quit or not quit. They give you alternative realities,
Yeah.
alternative options, right? That would really help you a lot in this decision making process. So again, I wanted to reiterate that quitting is not just a two option thing, right? It's really a process that you really have to go through, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you ease into it, you set your goals, you find the people that are close to you to support you as a group, and also maybe also take a step back, like you mentioned. Maybe you are just going through an obstacle or a hard time at work or at a relationship. So maybe you need just coping mechanisms that you need to consider, right? So, ooh, my connection.
Also, I think sorry. I think my yeah, I don't know
Wait,
if
you
it's my connection or
froze.
your connection. Um I don't know. Did I
We're
froze?
wrapping up. My
Can you
God.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but
Can you hear me?
yes, I think it's my
Okay.
connection. Wait, hold on.
Am I okay now? Well, I'm
Wait,
still moving in mine, so maybe you could just use
all
my
right, I can
recording.
edit it. Yes.
Okay.
That's weird. You're already wrapping up. Oh my God.
I know. Anyway, what I wanted to say
Yeah.
was, I think for most cases, I'm not gonna generalize, but for
Mhm.
most cases, quitting now doesn't mean or doesn't bar you from never going back to it ever again. You know,
Mhm.
like
Yep.
for your case, um, you quit filmmaking. You
Mhm.
quit at least that part of filmmaking, that yeah, that section of filmmaking.
Mhm.
But there's nothing stopping you from, say, 10, 20 years down the line, you go
Mhm.
back to it.
Mhm.
So, again, it quitting doesn't always mean it's something that's permanent.
Mhm.
If, say, you quit law school 2 years ago, there's nothing stopping you from going again, going to law school again, and maybe this time, maybe after all these years, and I still came back to it, then maybe now I'm more ready
Mhm.
to take on what what what's going to, whatever trials or whatever
Mhm.
experiences that you're going to experience now that you're more equipped with um things that you've learned in the past years, things you've
Yeah.
learned about yourself,
Yeah. Maybe you
you're
develop as a
learning,
person
yeah,
already, right?
yeah, exactly, like
Mhm.
you've developed coping mechanisms, and you feel
Mhm.
like now you're better at handling stress and handling anxiety. So quitting doesn't mean you're never going to have a chance to do that thing ever again,
Mhm.
for most cases,
Mhm.
because I guess there would be some cases where it's an all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe in a
But
different form. Like for my case, I quit filmmaking, but I'm doing film in a different form, right? In
yeah,
a
yeah,
different
it's just,
angle, right?
yeah,
Just
it's
like
just
opening your mind with a lot of possibilities, a lot of realities, right? So quitting
exactly.
shouldn't be such a negative, such a negative thing.
Hmm. Sometimes you just quit because it's not meant for you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna judge you, and if they're judging you, it's just because they don't know what you're going through. So maybe that's something to think about. Like, if you're thinking about, oh, what would people think of me, what
Mm-hmm.
they think I'm weak, they think I'm a failure,
Mm-hmm.
that just means they don't really know what you went through.
Yeah.
So
So they're
I
not
know
your
it's
close
hard.
network.
I know it's a lot easier to
Mm-hmm.
say, to not worry about what other people would think, because
Yes.
I worry so much about what other people think about
Mm-hmm.
me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
that kind of person. Like, I I'd like to think that, oh, I don't care what you think. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care
Mm-hmm.
if you don't like what I'm doing, but I do care. But
Yeah.
it's something that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just going back to your support group, and having those validation that what I'm doing is okay, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's making me happy. I mean, quitting would make me happy, so that's fine, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you get that, because you get that support from that group, and whose opinions really matter to you. um
Yeah,
then you'd be
but
okay.
you
You'd be
also
okay.
mentioned the validation is okay, right? But yeah, I completely agree. It's okay to still care what people think, but also,
From opinions that really matter.
yeah, that really
Yeah.
matters. But yeah, for some people who really care what people think, even outside of their close networks. But I think yung subsequent action that you would doing from that, thinking that I should really do something that people think that would make me look good, make me look smarter, right? So I think dun papasok yung ability mo to decide and really have that ability for good decision making, yung mga subsequent action mo as a result of that thinking. Kasi you don't necessarily have to take into account every time what would people think. Sometimes yun nga, you have to take into
Yeah.
account only the things that your close network would say, right? So it really depends on, like I said, the answer to life is it depends.
Well, because you have to remember that the thing that you're doing, or the thing that you're going to quit, you're you're doing it for you, and you're not
Yes.
doing it for them. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any say whether or not you should quit or not, or whether or not
Mm-hmm.
you should quit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not for them.
Yeah, they're not
They're not
experiencing your
stakeholders.
stress.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're basically just giving you unsolicited opinion, which you don't need,
Yeah.
and because they're not the ones experiencing your anxieties, your troubles,
Mm-hmm.
they're not in your position to say whether or not you should quit. So maybe think about that too before you decide on anything, based on what other people are saying, which I'm telling myself as well.
Yes. You
Because
tell
I
yourself.
also need to learn that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a process, right? It does not just simply exist. It's something that we have to learn. So, right, the
Also,
more we talk about
again,
it, right?
sorry, it's the just maybe the last thing I'm gonna say about this topic. You're the one who's going to feel the consequences of your actions. It's not them. So
Yes.
if you quit, you're the one who's going to get affected. If you don't quit, you're the one who's going to get
Mm-hmm.
affected, not them. So
Mm-hmm.
if you feel like you're not quitting, you're deciding on not quitting to make them happy, but you're not happy, then maybe you should rethink that, because you're the one who is experiencing the consequences of that decision. And I
Yeah.
thank you.
Noise. Right? I should have said, um, what was a Gina thing to say?
A lot.
Mic drop. Yeah. So to end the episode, thank you so much for that. I hope
Oh, I
you
thought
stayed.
there was a
Why?
game.
No, there's no game. What do you want? We quit the game. You would quit the game.
Quit or not.
Anyway, just a last point. Also, I always share this quote that I've learned in one of the certifications I did, and I always say this to people, that no matter how far we have gone the wrong road, turn around. So that's it. That's the episode. Yes, that's the
Yay!
episode about
You
quitting.
have to put that like in block letters.
Well,
That
letters.
quote.
Right, it's good, right? So yeah, thank you so much, Attorney
Watch
Leigh, for our
Space Force.
watch Space Force, watch
Middleditch and
Middle
Schwartz, so we get
Shorts.
more episodes.
Yes, yes, we need more episodes, and that's the last point of this episode. I'll watch
Yes.
those two.
Emphatic period.